Okay, welcome everybody to today's event. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com and glad to have everybody here. Our speaker today is Avni Pandya from Power Objects. She's a CRM training consultant, and it's great to welcome her for the first time presenting to our audience here. As we get started, please do know that we would like to gather your feedback and take questions. You can enter your questions at any point using the Q&A block. You should see to the right of the main presentation area. I know Avni will be making time at different points to take your questions. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand things over to Avni.
Hello, thank you so much, and welcome again to this What's New in CRM for Dynamics 365 webinar. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to talk with you all today. There is so much cool stuff. First, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm a CRM training consultant here at Power Objects. Power Objects is a professional services firm. We are 100% focused on CRM for Microsoft Dynamics 365. We have 4 pillars of service that we provide. Service is the consulting and the support to do an implementation, a deployment, a change, anything that you need to get that Dynamics 365 working for you in your organization. Support. We have the largest Dynamics 365 CRM support desk outside of Microsoft, and we'll provide support on an hourly basis. Just give us a call. Our experts are here to help. We do education. That's the team that I'm on, so I'm a little partial to it. And we provide both webinars, in-person training. We have a deeper commitment than that. We have one of the richest and deepest CRM blogs. The Power Objects blog has so much good information in it. And then we also have our CRM book. So we actually built out an online live reference for Dynamics 365 CRM work areas. And finally, we have add-ons. So we are also an independent software vendor. We have fabulous tools that are available on AppSource from the Microsoft Store there, and that makes your life easier. It makes CRM work even better and do cooler things. So there is my face. You have something as a reference point here on the miracle of telecommunications. You'll just be hearing my voice otherwise and looking at my screen. I do have information here if you want to contact Power Objects via Facebook or Twitter. That's the information there. If you want to contact me, my email address is available. So what are we going to cover today? Yes. There are actually 12 tiles up here because there's that much cool stuff. We have the app modules in Dynamics 365 here. We've got relationship insights, relevance search, portals, business process flows. So for those of you who aren't totally up on every single acronym, BPF is how I will continually reference business process flows. We have the CRM app for Outlook. Here's another acronym, ISH. That's the Interactive Service Hub. We'll talk a little bit about changes to the administrative experience, cool features like editable grids, what's going on with mobile, the new learning path functionality, and changes to improvements to reporting and Power BI. So that having been said, let's plunge right in. Whoa, that went a little too fast. So Dynamics 365 is 8.2. What does that mean? If you're not familiar, then every time there's an update, especially if you think in the context of Dynamics 365 or CRM prior, online or on premises, so CRM 2016 was 8.0, CRM 2016 Update 1 was 8.1. So the December 2016 update for Dynamics 365 is 8.2. It's an update. It doesn't completely switch to a new version number. And then that update would be applied just like any other update according to your update schedule if you're online, or manually by downloading it and applying it to the server if you are on premises. The new home for all your business apps is how we're going to navigate to our CRM work areas in Dynamics 365, and we'll be demonstrating all of this a little bit later. So what happens is we go into Office, click on the Dynamics 365 icon, and it takes us to this brand new Dynamics 365 homepage, which has the modular app. So that's that app modules thing we were talking about. it's now going to be presented as sales, customer service, field service, project service, and then there's also this Dynamics 365 custom or default app that's available especially to the administrator that can access all of the functions and allow you to modify and manage all of the functions. So one question I have for all you out there is, what does Dynamics 365 mean to you? So here we have tabula rasa, the blank slate. So if you have a second to just type into the chat, I'm really interested in what that means to you and what the name change has meant. But for me, it means lots and lots of cool things. There's those modularized task-based app modules. And then we have a what you see is what you get designer. We can actually have more ability to change the user experience, to design it specifically so that it's exactly what that user needs, doesn't give them anything extra, focuses them in on the stuff they really care about, and it's a simple, easy to use drag and drop designer. We can also choose then who sees which apps based on security. So the same way we're used to already modifying the way people see forms and other things in Dynamics 365. We'll be able to see a list of all of the app modules available on that home page. In addition to being able to see a list of all of the app modules from Dynamics 365, home.dynamics.com is actually going to be your home for all of your business apps. Microsoft is making it the place that is going to be the center of everything that you have installed or that your administrator has installed, including third-party apps, for example, or apps from Microsoft itself from the App Store, or you might even have custom apps built with Power Apps that would be available in that same home.dynamics.com interface common task area. Those app modules are solution aware, so once you've built out your fabulous new app in your development environment, because that's where we always build out fabulous new things, then you'll be able to test it, validate it, and easily move it into production the same way you move all the other changes in Dynamics 365. So when we look at our settings, there's a place where we can actually choose whether we show that default app on the landing page and in the app switcher, and this is for users who are not system administrators. And then we are able to actually give that default app a different name rather than Dynamics 365 Custom. So we'll take a look at how you would do that if you were interested in doing that. When we actually want to modify and manage those apps, it's going to be from Settings in the Application group, and there's now a My Apps tile. Those app modules, once we click on that My Apps tile, gives us the ability to create an app, or you'll see there's our More Commands option on all of these modular apps, on the Sales app, for example, here. And those More Commands options is where we are able to get into the app designer for existing apps and also to manage the roles for existing apps. And within each app, we also have a separate and unique sitemap for that app so that we can actually control and modify and design the navigation within the app, not just that fact that there's this app that exists, but focus in on exactly which areas, groups, and sub-areas are available for navigation. It goes deeper than that. When we go back to the app, we can actually choose which dashboards, which system views, which system charts, which entities are available through that particular lens or window into all of the fabulous data that's in your Dynamics 365 system, all that rich data that you really want to surface what's important to the user. That sitemap designer is, again, what you see is what you get. It's visual. You just drag and drop, move things around. If anyone out there is familiar with the old way that we had to design sitemaps, you'll be just blessing everything and everyone at Microsoft right now. We are able to validate and publish with that designer, and it really gives us a lot of flexibility and ability to, again, move those sitemaps with solutions, make our changes in a development environment, and move it over into a production environment. Yes, I'm going to have to take a look at some of these. What does Dynamics 365 mean to me? That's fabulous. Let's see. Expandability into mobile and new technology. I love it. That's exactly what it is. All right, so that's kind of that beginning of the visual interface, the first thing I said we were going to talk about today. Now let's go on and just briefly talk about those business process flow enhancements. So business process flows have been around and they continue to improve every time. They're that guidance mechanism where we can provide information about what steps are important in each stage. We can then do some analysis on what stage a particular record is in, how many opportunities do I have that are, ready to close but not closed quite yet. But business process flow enhancements just make that even more powerful. We can now have concurrent business process flows. That means that we could have more than one business process flow that is applied to a particular record at a time, and it will keep the status. So it will know that Avni's business process flow was on stage 2 and accounting's business process flow is on stage 1. And when Avni opens the record and switches it to her process flow, it will still be on that stage 2. In prior versions, it would actually reset when you switched flows. So now they can exist concurrently and they remember where they were at. This can allow us to have more flexibility when different departments, like the example I just gave, perhaps service and accounting, are looking at the same record, most likely an account record, from a very different perspective with different stages and steps to completing what they need to complete for that record. We now have the ability to mark a process as active, finished, or abandoned. So if you have that event and it didn't quite happen, you didn't you have that venue and you decided it wasn't working out, you can just abandon that process instead of having to take it all the way to the end. And that gives us the ability then to do some analysis and metrics again. How many do we have that are active? What's going on with abandoned business process flows for particular records? There are security enhancements. A brand new drag and drop designer. Yes, there's a little bit of a theme here. We get suggestion bubbles, so their ability to actually have a little icon that the user can click on and it will pop up a suggestion for them based on where they're at in the processing of that record. We have additional KPIs available, so it'll now tell us for each stage of that business process flow, what is the time in each stage, what's the total process time. For online and on-premises, there's now general availability of the task flows for the mobile interface. So task flows are a little different take on business process flows. They're not available through the web client, but it's very immersive. It takes the user through the flow of the work one task at a time, which is really great for that really laser-focused kind of mobile experience. And now we're able to have out-of-the-box CRM messages as actions, and then there's many, many, many new actions that are available to us. In addition, yes, drum roll please, we can now tie workflows to business process flows. Yes, you heard me. You move in and out of stages, or you can set for the entire business process flow as a whole so that when that particular flow is applied to a record, it actually triggers a workflow and all of the actions in that workflow. So here are the ways that we can modify that status. You have that process drop down on the command bar. We'll see what those timers look like. Where do you see those? They're in the stage itself, and then at the bottom of that business process flow, and this is the web client view. And then this is what that enhanced designer looks like. It's really cool that it gives us more of that Visio style, traditional process diagram style organization, especially when it comes to building out what we've had for a while, is the ability to do branching business process flows where they take a different path depending on certain variables or certain things that are filled in or not on the record itself. And it could be hard to see that when it was all in one long list and you had to follow along with the indentation. I mean, all my programming friends thought that was the easiest thing ever. For me, I was really happy to get this visual designer. I can see the lines. I can see things. We'll take a look when we do our demo of what it looks like when you do a branch and how you can drag and drop all the different elements onto that business process flow. And as you see, here's that magical workflow button that we have available to us when we're working in that business process flow designer. So when it comes to custom entities, we can now control security for each of those custom entities when it comes to business process flows. And then again, that gives us the multiple simultaneous processes per record. I love this answer. I'm trying to figure out what Dynamics 365 means. It's my favorite answer. Of course, I'm an educator. It's my favorite answer because it is this really big new world. At the same time, we know that part of it is this connection to online, this connection to the cloud, that Microsoft has been on that journey for a while, and then opening up so that their software works on multiple platforms. And I don't know, it feels like they've just been sitting on these improvements for like putting together 10 years worth of improvements. That's an exaggeration, but quite a few, many months of work that we're seeing in just this update that came 6 months after CRM 2016 Update 1. Editable grids. They are here. They are alive. I won't do my Frankenstein voice. It would be terrible. We can edit a row with simple field types. So as long as the field is on that form as an editable field, then when we put it into that editable grid, it will also be an editable field. As you'll see when we take a look at this, this includes the ability to look up to a different record, for example, to connect a different contact to an account or vice versa. And in addition, when we're actually looking at that view, we can group and filter on columns based on those existing option set values. So we can choose to see everything grouped by city or grouped by another value that's a column in that view. We can sort on any column in the grid. Yes, I said sort on any column in the grid. And then we can modify how we adjust columns in the grid, pagination. And finally, we can export those editable grids to Excel. What we have the ability to do when we're looking at a particular view in Dynamics 365 is we can choose whether we're going to look at a particular view as an editable grid or as a read-only grid. So we'll take a look briefly at what the difference is kind of between that editable grid and read-only grid experience. How you, for example, open a record changes depending on which kind of grid you're looking at. Now, the configuration for these editable grids is per entity, and then that one configuration can apply across all form factors, web, tablet, and mobile. You have the ability to import or export in a solution and to choose for the user whether the editable or the read-only grid is their default experience. So you can see here when I go into the entity, into the settings, there's a controls tab. On that controls tab, I have the ability to add this editable grid control, and then I see web, phone, and tablet. And this doesn't mean the editable grid is only available for the web. This means in the web experience, the editable grid is the default. In the phone and tablet experiences, that read-only grid is the default. And either way, the user would be able to then select which grid they want to work with at any given time. And they do give us the ability to include red resources and do some additional configuration for those editable grids. They support JavaScript events for the home grid, for the subgrid, and they also support entity-level business rules. So we can show error messages or set field values, set business required, set default values, lock or unlock fields on the editable grid itself, so that we have the ability to say, well, if this field needs to be locked on the form, then it would also obviously need to be locked in that editable grid. We'd take that into account when building out that business rule. Coming up, the next cool thing, yes, I'm just going to keep going. This train is moving on. Editable grids are awesome. All right, so Relationship Assistant. Relationship Insights is new functionality. Now, it's currently available in preview, so this is not live yet, and it has a little bit different functionality when there are some parts of it that are available on premises, but the primary depth of the capability will be available online. It does connect you up to Azure Machine Learning. So there is a whole process of enabling it, since you would be giving permission to an external system to have access to that Dynamics 365 data. Once you do it, it knows so many things. Email engagement, so it'll remind you of upcoming activities, phone calls, meetings, and then it will actually look in your emails and go, I know I've been asking for this forever. Hey, Avni, hey, I think this email, maybe you should track this one in in Dynamics 365. I think that's about an active opportunity. So it can actually go in and with that machine learning, do those suggestions, provide you with that heads up, help manage your inbox basically, which is cool. We also have those engagement analytics, so things we used to have to do with third-party tools, things that we still do incredibly well with our third-party tools, just saying, but we can do engagement analysis, clicks, opens, information about how folks are engaging with those emails. And then we can also automatically capture other kinds of signals from Exchange and CRM. For example, when was the last time we met with somebody and what's been going on with our emails? Is there an appointment hanging out there that we were supposed to do a follow-up and it hasn't happened? And it'll actually do some analysis, and we can set some parameters to that analysis and give us information about the relationship health, the relationship risk, and what is that best next action to take. So you can figure out whether you're spending your time on the right opportunities, stakeholders, and activities. In addition, we now have available within the actual relationships. So when you build actually a relationship, build a new field, build a new lookup in Dynamics 365, then part of that relationship you assign some behavior, which includes the cascading behavior we're familiar with. If you reassign the parent, then it will automatically reassign all the children to a new owner. We now have the ability to turn on roll-up view. Now, this is not available for any of the managed relationships that are out of the box, but it is unlocked and available for you, or it's available if you change the type of behavior from parental to relational for those relationships where we can change that, where we have the ability to, for account, contact, and opportunity, include activities of related custom entities. So we have some more depth of view into that data and have it coming to the surface a little more easily. We have the capability of adding that now for those three really important parts of our Dynamics CRM interface. All right, so CRM app for Outlook enhancements. We're just trucking right along here. So what happens in the mobile experience, sorry, not the mobile experience, in the web experience is that we have this app that's always pinned over on the right-hand side of the screen, and we can pin it when we're composing an email. We can choose while we're composing to go ahead and track a particular email before we hit send. The relationship assistant is when that is activated and integrated, it can know all sorts of things about the people that we're sending the email to. It can look at deep information about what are their company names in our Outlook contacts, whether or not that contact is in Dynamics 365. But even without Relationship Assistant enabled, the app for Outlook is super smart. It looks at those email addresses, and before I even track anything, I am going to pull up all of the information about those contacts, about those accounts, about all the different kinds of things related to those accounts in the interface right there in email, whether that's Outlook on the web, whether that's the iPhone app or Outlook on the mobile web, or whether it's actually Outlook on the desktop computer. So any of those channels for Outlook, we can go ahead and see all of that related information from Dynamics 365. In addition now, we can use email templates. We've always been able to do that. And then sales literature and articles, not just the old way through the client, but here through this app for Outlook. And again, that's available in Outlook for the web and for mobile web. Just a caveat there, the mobile web interface is only available for Dynamics 365 Online. All of the other interfaces are available whether your Dynamics is online or on premises, and in any of those circumstances, it doesn't matter which exchange is. All hybrid configurations are now supported as of that December 2016 update of Dynamics 365. So a quick note, in case you're not super familiar with this, the recommended way that Microsoft now says for us to connect Outlook to Dynamics 365, connect email data, is via the app for Outlook, which requires server-side sync. That it very clearly states that the email router is not going to be supported going forward. I mean, at some point, it's going to go out of support. It is being deprecated right now. So definitely, if you haven't tried it out yet, definitely try out that app for Outlook and see if it meets your needs. On the desktop, there's actually an Office add-in that comes in when you enable the app for Outlook, which also gives you some ability to configure and coordinate, synchronize your contacts on your actual Outlook contact, your address book with Dynamics 365 contacts. So a lot of functionality that's available to us now using server-side synchronization with app for Outlook. Mobile. So what have we got with the mobile workspace? We have new colors and layouts. We have more device integration so that Dynamics 365 knows about your camera and it knows about your geolocation support. We have better and deeper Power BI integration and the availability on that mobile workspace for editable grids. In addition, those action cards that the relationship assistant pops up to tell us, hey, this is the next best action that you could take. When you have that enabled, that's also going to come all the way through to the mobile interface. We can have the ability to inline preview photos, inline note creation, an inline note creation form so that you're just able to right there type in just like you're used to typing any sort of text message. And then our mobile layout and views, when we look at a phone and then a tablet interface, this gives you a sense of what that design aesthetic and what that is kind of looking like these days. I'm going to stop a second here, see if we've got any questions. One of the questions we have is, does Relationship Insights get rid of the need to use set regarding from the Outlook plugin? So the Outlook plugin, Relationship Insights works with App for Outlook and not with the Outlook plugin. So you would have App for Outlook enabled, and then you would still be choosing what record to track against. We could have Relationship Assistant, just like now, tell us that, oh, this is this contact. But if it automatically tracks it against that contact when really the communication is about an opportunity, then our metrics and the information that's visible in Dynamics 365 isn't accurate. So although it is really, really close, it cannot yet read your mind. I'm sure they're working on that. And when it gets more clear from the context of an email or something else what it should be connected to, it gives you a very fast one-click. There's this little chain link icon, and you just click on it if it guesses right, or you can go ahead and track it against something else if it guesses wrong. We now have even more powerful search. I mean, you thought that global search was awesome. Well, now that's called categorized search, and that still works fabulously, where it'll look across up to 10 entities in Dynamics 365 as enabled by the administrator. Beyond that, you can also enable relevant search. This is another one of those Azure machine learning features where you enable that your data gets shared out with that Azure cloud so that it can do all the analysis to give you back this really rich and easy search experience. Much more similar to the way we're used to searching, so no wildcards, it's faceted, it gives you all these different pictures and places in the system throughout the different entities where that search is found. It gives us access to the options and lookup fields being searchable in this release. And then we also have support for showing results for records that were shared to you. So before you could only see records that you owned. And then finally, when you have non-text entity fields as view columns in that quick find view, those get shown as entity-specific facets in that relevant search page. Why facets? What do I mean? I mean the little sliders that are my best friend on Kayak, the sliders that let me narrow down what information I'm looking for in my search results based on, for example, modified on, based on created on, or on record type. So that part of the relevant search enhancements, it just makes it a very fluid and rich experience. For those people who are using the Interactive Service Hub, who are using service in Dynamics 365, we now have more capabilities in that Interactive Service Hub interface that continue to build out the command bar to have more of the commands that are available to us through the web client. We are able to associate similar issues and copy text and images to the clipboard, and also send links to records, so that we can have other team members reference things clearly without really having to look for those records in the system. We also have a quick find feature, so it's a little easier to find things quickly now in that Interactive Service Hub. All right, let's take a look at what's next. So this is showing you that quick find interface, and also if you have relevant search enabled, then you choose whether a given search is happening via relevant search or the categorized search. So we'll take a look at that when we actually demo the changes for search in the system. Learning Path is brand new and available online only. So the Learning Path is a new way for us to go ahead and give you guidance in the system. So we used to have the ability to have some custom guided help, but now beyond that, we have the ability to have this pop-up that shows at a specific place on the screen, depending on specific actions that you've taken, with just-in-time information that gives you exactly what you need to get to the next stage. So when we do take a look briefly at the demo, you'll see that there's a sidebar that's available there for the Learning Path, and then that sidebar also gives us the ability to find help or to find videos. Then there's the guided task interface that gives us some information based on the context we're in. In addition, there's also the ability to author and publish your own Learning Path content, so that you can choose that, make custom instructions or custom help, custom information, and have that surface based on the actions that you choose to have as the context. And then that actually lives at the tenant level, so you can then publish it to orgs across the tenant. So it isn't at the org, it actually lives a level up higher in the cloud. There's ability to have security privileges. When you want to do authoring, you do have to turn it on. And the context that we can use to choose whether it's triggering a particular guided task has to do with security role, the page information, the form factor, is it a tablet, are they on the phone, what client are they using, and then it'll give them the information that they need from there. So it's those interactive bubbles, gives you ability to navigate to the next step in the learning path with a user click, and also figure out what is the context of the action, maybe additional information like videos or links to websites. So another venue for us to give rich documentation to our users. Whew, all right, enhancements to portals. So portals, so that's all that functionality that came with the purchase of ADX Studio and then has been integrated deeply into Dynamics 365 Online. We now have multi-language portal support, and then that faceted search for knowledge articles. So again, the ability to use those different factors or facets to filter down that search. There's content access levels for knowledge articles, and also the better service integration for CRM portals. We have the ability to do some multi-partner collaboration, and that includes information about the locator and the dashboard. And there's going to be there's this new event management functionality. So support for one-time events up to full multi-day conferences. We can do sessions and tracks, registration and check-in, logistics, so all these new ways that users can interact with our CRM, but through the web, through that portal experience. And one of the great things about that content access level is being able to restrict access to knowledge articles based on the user who's coming to your portal. So it really gives you, again, the ability to make that experience not just for your internal users of your system, but for all users of your system to be focused and targeted only on the information that they really, really need. In addition, we now have the ability to filter on product as well as those other facets, and as well as that information about the content access levels. So there's some general internal improvements as well. You know, there's now support for the government deployments that wasn't there before. And then we do have the ability to have additional auditing for higher accountability, and also better ability to have those portals available across with more ADA compliance. So for all of our users of different abilities who are interacting with that portal to have all the features and functions we need to make it work for them. So there's a few changes we have available to us in just administration of your Dynamics 365 in general. We can restrict access based on trusted IP rules, so that we set those in the user's profile. Take back a step. We set those in the user's profile, and then they log in from an untrusted IP address. The access to Dynamics 365 CRM is blocked. So that's a preview feature, but it really is powerful in giving us the ability to safeguard our data and feel safe on the big bad world of the internet and the cloud, that we have all of the controls we need to know that people who are accessing our system are authorized to access the system. We can also do some business-to-business authentication now in Azure Active Directory. There's the Organization Insight solution, used to be preview. Now it's fully available. It's easy to install out there on AppSource, and it gives you lots of information about your instance, lots of metrics. We can also assign a CRM online administrator at a tenant level. So just like we can have managers of other Office 365 services set on the Office 365 side, we can also now do that with a CRM administrator. And once they're set at the tenant level on the Office 365 side, they will then automatically get that CRM administrator role. And finally, you can manage the encryption keys for Dynamics 365 online through, again, that Office 365 administrative portal. So that's some functionality, just really giving us a richer ability to control and manage things from a cloud perspective. For reporting, there's updated report authoring extensions for Dynamics 365, so now it supports Visual Studio 2015, 2013, 2012, or 2010. So once your instance has been updated to the December 2016 update of Dynamics 365, then you will have those report authoring extensions that can be used and will be available for more recent versions of Visual Studio when we're doing especially connection directly to 365 Online via Fetch. Power BI integration. For a while now, since 2016 Update 1, we had the ability to bring in a tile onto the dashboard in Dynamics 365 Online and have the user click on that tile, and it opens up the Power BI information in a separate tab. Now that tile on that Dynamics 365 Personal dashboard opens an immersive Power BI experience. So the report is right there, visible in Dynamics 365, kind of like that immersive Excel Online experience. And then in addition, we can now actually have a Power BI dashboard, the entire Power BI dashboard, embedded into Dynamics 365 as one of my dashboard options from that dashboard dropdown. This just needs to be enabled in system settings, and then of course it requires the different functionality within Power BI itself to be enabled. So this is what it looks like when you're adding that Power BI dashboard, and you can choose whether or not to enable it for mobile. And then once those Power BI dashboards also flow to the mobile app and give us the ability to embed tiles, to pin and open reports, and we also have option set fields available to us for out-of-the-box entities as filters and as slicers. All right, deep breath. Field service enhancements. The field service enhancements are awesome. There's the connected field service, so we now have that Internet of Things connection where there can be proactive alerts from those connected devices, which gives us the ability to address issues faster. There's resource scheduling optimization, so a common scheduling option across all project services, field services, and in fact, if you have either project or field services with that resource scheduling option installed, then it is available across Dynamics 365 for all of your entities. So that is just very much more friendly and user-friendly, improved scheduling experience. Again, we're connecting all of the schedules for all the different parts and pieces and giving it to you in one view. There's some bug fixes, some issues that just needed to be updated with the new UI forms enabled for the booking and work order combined forms. You can enable a booking without a work order. And there's some significant map updates. So I can actually filter down by individual resources and also have the ability to have show the route on the map, and we can even click to shadow resources, so I can follow what's going on with a particular resource as it moves around on the map with that GPS capability. There's some good new icons, color palette, more modern Bing control and geocoding, those things that just go along with the updates we've had to the mobile interface. Project service enhancements. So we now have this add-in for the Microsoft Project key scenarios. We can connect those PSA and open that PSA project template in Microsoft Project and then modify the plan in Microsoft Project and publish it back to Project Service in Dynamics 365. We have the ability to do some Exchange integration, and that includes a consolidated view of Exchange calendars, so back to that idea of giving us one place to see everything, to schedule everything, including even personal appointments showing up in that Project Service work calendar. And it's available now for both Exchange online and on-prem, where you can leverage the existing Dynamics 365 email server and mailbox configurations. The system administrator is able to opt in or out on an organization level, and the individual is also able to opt in or out at the user level. And we now have this time entry and expense delegation capability, so we can delegate those submissions to other resources instead of just having the project manager be the one who has the access to those functions. Whoa, went a little too fast there. USD enhancements. So we have the ability to display notifications to agents in the Unified Service Desk, alert them about an action to take, copy action call data, and track the progress of what's going on with our actions. There are enhanced debugger capabilities. So the Data in the Action Calls tab now has information about what's been going on. You can track the progress, copy the data to the clipboard, and figure out what's going on so you can review it or send it to another person for troubleshooting. We can now, hallelujah, refresh the client without having to restart it completely. So when you do those configuration changes, you can now click the refresh button, and then those changes will push through without having to restart the whole USD application. And we now have the ability to configure that splash screen for custom branding. So developer or customizer can modify that USD theme, including font, color, style, the elements. You can now have it meet corporate branding guidelines, which always makes things feel like a more unified and user-friendly experience from our users' perspective. One really great resource that we have that is out there on the Dynamics 365 Help and Training site is this online versus on-premises features. So it really tells us for features that were introduced in the December 2016 update to Dynamics 365, are they online only, are they on-premise? And in fact, this document actually kind of goes back in time to Dynamics CRM 2015, so it's telling us which features were introduced when. For example, maybe a feature like App for Outlook was introduced for online in CRM 2016, but then it was brought also to on-premise in 2016 Update 1. So that table is now updated and very, very useful out on that Dynamics 365 Help and Training website, and there's that link for you right there. You could just go ahead and type into Google your Dynamics 365 online versus on-premise features, and I always find it on that first go around. So I'm just going to stop here for a second and check and see if we have questions. Looks like we have a question about JavaScript, and that is not something that I have the answer to in mobile yet. So we can take a look at that. And then I'm going to go ahead and pop into Dynamics 365 here and show you what that looks like from especially that modular experience and then going from Office 365 and some of the other things that we can do now. You may be wondering if you're currently on Microsoft Dynamics CRM 2016, what are your update choices? And the answer is once you apply that December 2016 update of Dynamics 365, that is the next update that's available for CRM 2016. There is no other branch or path. And whether and when you have to apply it has everything to do with your licensing and when was the last time you applied an update. There's a really rich guidance that's available directly from Microsoft on that. But once you apply that December 2016 update for Dynamics 365, you're going to see this new Dynamics 365 interface. And that's separate from whether the licensing has changed or not. So in addition to now giving us this modular app interface where sales is its own lens and universe, and then there's service, field service, project service, in addition to that, lens that's available to us and the modular apps in the interface, there's also been a change in the actual back-end structure of the pricing when it comes to Dynamics 365 Enterprise and the various plans that are available and the team access versus the full user access. And the whether and how those things are purchased and whether and how you see the 365 interface are kind of on they're separate paths. They're not necessarily connected. So you may have moved, if you're on premises, to the new licensing without updating your actual server yet, or vice versa for online. You may have applied your update but not be having to renew your licensing yet. So the interface is already there for 365, but it hasn't changed as far as the billing goes. So they're separate things. So from my Office 365 landing page now, I have this fabulous new icon, Dynamics 365. And that opens that home.dynamics.com homepage we were talking about. So this is where I have those modular apps. And as I said, it's any apps that I have for Dynamics 365. That may include custom apps that I've built for custom entities, like the insurance app I have here as an example. Once I have, assuming that you have a really rich user base with lots of different people using CRM in different ways, you may also have Power Apps and other kinds of apps, so that this is a pretty long list of apps. I can pin the ones that I use most often. So as the administrator or customizer, I'm going to pin my custom app. And you can see that we have renamed our custom app to be just the name of our org. Once I have a pinned app on this Common Task Navigator, I will see my pinned apps in the pane when I click on that Dynamics 365 icon. And then when I go to My Apps, I see all of the available apps. So this task pane is an exact analogy of all of the things that you can navigate to from this home page. If you can get to it from the home page, you can get to it from the task pane. Sometimes that home page requires a little bit of a sync, but it's always going to be the case that you can get to them from both places. And in fact, here on our home.dynamics.com, you also see that always available link to AppSource, which is that place that we can get those additional solutions and other kinds of components for Dynamics 365. For example, if you wanted to do that new organization insights, notice it says get it now. So it's available right away from Microsoft. So there's stuff out there that's free. There's stuff out there that involves working with a partner or purchasing additional functionality from Microsoft. And like I said, everything you can get to from the page, you can get to from the task pane. There's our Get More apps. So you'll notice that that navigation bar looks a little bit different in 365 because my Dynamics 365 icon now takes me to this common task pane. So when I go into the app that I want to go into, so this time I'm going to go into the full app. I'm actually going to do that little recipe trick where, you know, the cake has already been baked in the oven. So this is where I'm going to land, is in whatever my home pages that I have set up in my options, just like before, in the gear icon there on the navigation bar. So when I want to actually get to the sitemap that takes me to all of the different work areas and places in 365, now that's this down arrow that gives me the specific sitemap or menu, and I'm the administrator. I'm in the default app that has everything, and so I can see all of the work areas. And as you can see in my trial here, I've enabled field service, I've enabled project service, I have some custom activities, custom areas, and then within each area, of course, we have our groups and our tiles. So that part is the same. The rest of the breadcrumbs work just like they always have, just as you expected. This icon over here is right? Our familiar question mark, but it has more to it now. So this is where that learning path comes into play, where I have this quick ability to see a video, or even if you were to create a new trial today, what you could do is it immediately start up with a welcome tour, or I can have it start. So now I don't have a welcome screen that sends me to a website to read about what's new. I have a quick video, and then I'll click on the next icon, and it'll focus me on a different place in the screen and tell me about that place. I can go forwards or backwards. It gives me a sense of where I'm at on this particular learning path. So how many steps are left for me to get to the end of it. At any time, I can, of course, close it, and I can reopen it from that help and training icon or link. When I scroll down here, you can see I also have the access to those traditional information and then things to try, different kinds of tours. If you have learning authoring enabled, which I don't in this particular org, then you'll be able to actually go into all of the catalog of all of the different learning paths on offer, the content library, and then update the controls and update the content of those controls. And we have our happy little smiley face, so really easy way for us to give feedback on this particular new feature and functionality directly to Microsoft as well. So you may be asking, if I do a custom theme and I change this logo, what happens? And the answer is the logo will still pop open the task pane. So you may choose to make sure that your logo leaves room for the down arrow or includes its own arrow. Just be aware that that's something you'll want to be careful of if you're going to be modifying this interface once you've updated to the 8.2 or the Dynamics 365. All right, so let's keep going here and get through some of the big stuff before we're done, and then have at least a few minutes for questions. So really big important thing I want to make sure and show you is how we get to that app designer, sitemap designer, and the new visual process designer. So I went to that settings, my apps. Here I see all the apps I have available. I could create a new one. I can go ahead and open an app designer, an existing app. Here's where I choose which specific dashboards I'm going to make available through this app, which specific business process flows are available through this app. You know, within accounts, which forms, which views, which charts. I know that, you know, sometimes you're working with a specific group of people. Maybe it's just accounting or just executives, and they really just need a lens into particular things in Dynamics 365. And as there's so many more things that we can create, so much more functionality, it can be difficult to find exactly what you're looking for. So this way, as the administrator, you can create that interface that makes it really easy for them to find what they're looking for. I can go ahead and click on the sitemap designer then, and it takes me to the drag and drop sitemap designer. So from here, if I wanted to add a new area, I would just drag it and drop it over. Yep, it was that easy. Can go back to my components, and within that area I could add a group. Within that group I could add a sub area. Oh wait, I put that area, the group and sub area, in the wrong place. Yes, I can actually drag and drop it to a different area. Just that easy. Once you actually set up your group or area or sub area, this is where you, over on the right in the Properties tab, set up the name, for example, perhaps an icon or an image that's already been loaded as a web resource. In addition, once you actually get down to the sub-area level, that must be connected either to a web resource or to an entity. So that's where we would connect it to our dashboards link, or we would connect it to contacts or whatever other entities within, or custom entities within Dynamics 365 are appropriate, or if we've created web resources similar to that What's New web resource. So again, similar to what we know has always been possible, but instead of painstakingly editing the XML, it's possible to go ahead and just modify this in the sitemap editor. Go ahead and close out of the app designer without saving any changes. I'm going to take a peek over here at settings and then processes. Yeah, the drag and drop components are cool. So I did have a question come in about the new licensing structure, and it really depends on so many factors when it comes to how many users you have, what components you're using, how much customization there is, what levels of access folks need. So I'm happy for you to reach out to me or to Joe CRM or Facebook or Power Objects, or there's a chat on our website, and I can put you in touch with somebody who can give you basic information on that licensing structure when it comes to your organization, or else there's some generic resources available from Microsoft, but it's just there's many different factors involved. In general, it's a question of purchasing a module separately. So you could just buy the sales module or just buy the service module, as opposed to getting a professional license or a basic license that includes some things and not other things. And what that looks like, for example, if I just get the sales module, so if I just created a trial that only had the sales module, this would be my view into Dynamics 365. So what does that app module do for me? Now all I see is the sales and marketing components. Notice my sitemap's a lot simpler. I'm not seeing all the things that aren't relevant to me within that particular sitemap. When I go into sales and I look at my list of dashboards, I don't have any customer service system dashboards on this list. I only have the ones that are relevant. I'm going to pop back into that main custom one, though, so I can take you back into Process Designer. So this new Visual Process Designer is available for both business rules and business process flows. And I'm just going to take an existing business process flow to show you how that looks. It's, of course, popping up on my other screen. Here we go. So this is that business process flow. Again, the components where we can drag and drop onto the canvas here. I have a mini map that shows me, oh, there's much more going on with this flow. I want to make sure that I'm going through all of the things and making sure that I'm checking or adding components everywhere. You have an overall sense of what the structure of it is. Here's where I could add a global workflow so that the minute this particular process is applied to a record, that workflow will run. Or I can add a workflow to any particular stage, and when I add it to a stage, it asks me whether it's on stage enter or on stage exit. Now, the way that we add conditions here is by dragging and dropping it, and then once you have a condition and you set up the branching action, notice I have the yes or the success action, and here I have the no action, so I would just go back here and I would set up the no action would be a stage, and it builds in the bypass for me and brings me back to the main stage, the next path in the stage automatically. Now, both here and in the app designer, you can either drag and drop from components, or you can also use your add icon over here. It's not that you have to be able to drag and drop, just again, making sure that it's accessible for people for whom that would be a much easier way to interact with that system. One cool thing we can do is take a snapshot, and that will give me a graphic of the entire business process flow, not just a piece of it I can see. Now, it won't expand things that are not expanded, but I can go ahead and send that to somebody to get their opinion of the structure, or to just make sure that I have documented where things are at a particular time. You can see here on the mini map that it gives me that visual representation of what's going on. And it's very easy both here and in the app module designer to just copy and paste, to drag and drop things around. So I know we just have a couple of minutes left, and the other big feature I just want to make sure that I show you, and then I'll take questions while I've got this up, is that ability to go ahead and compose and connect to the app for Outlook. So I've got a composition going here, and it's this Dynamics 365 icon. Sometimes it's in the taskbar, sometimes it's in the footer, which then opens up the pane and brings me all of the ability. And notice it's saying, hey, you have to add a recipient. So I just add a recipient and retry, and it automatically finds them, even though I have not yet tracked anything. Let me just take a peek over here. Yes, so there can be some changes. Looks like some folks are having challenges with the WYSIWYG apps because it's having us change just the one interface and then the code behind it is reflowing. So definitely reach out to us if there's something we can do to help you and see and make sure we get to the organizers here reference that we might have on our blog about licensing, and then if we have a blog about that, I'll make sure that gets to you as well. Let's see what else we have here. So what features are deprecated in Dynamics 365? You know, the big one is that the email router is going to be deprecated going forward. OData is still working. The other points to remember are really the same points as for any upgrade or update, which is if you have any custom code, custom types of third-party apps, JavaScript, just when you have so many more types of automation that are available with all the actions that we can do now and with the more rich capabilities of workflows and business process flows, you know, are there things that it makes more sense to use out of the box? Are there things that are going to be impacted because the code base is shifted? So really, it's a standard kind of update. So yeah, similar kinds of things that were in that step up from 2016 to 2016 update 1, but with the big change there to the interface. So that's the information I've got for you. Let me just pop back here and say thank you so much that giving me your time today to walk through all the cool stuff happening with what's new in Dynamics 365. Have a great day, guys, and thank you so much for joining me.
All right, thank you, Avni. Thank you to everyone in the audience for all the questions. We did record today's event, and we will be following up with that very soon. So have a great day.